Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Rachel Park. I'm a Director of Product Marketing here at SentinelOne. Welcome to our webinar, Expert Guidance for Security Leaders, Transparency, Stability, and Resilience in Endpoint Protection. Now, before we begin, I would just like to show our safe harbor slide. There are some key items here, including specifically pertaining to future-looking statements. We ask that you just keep that in mind. And I believe there's also a warning about recording content in the chat as well. But let's get to it. Today, we are joined by two experts, Miri Peer, Director of Product Management for Endpoint Security, and Mark Dufresne, Vice President of Detection Engineering. Together, they're going to share some critical insights on balancing innovation and protection with stability and resilience, and also share SentinelOne's approach to our agent architecture. As we proceed, as always, please do input your questions in the chat, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can during our dedicated Q&A section at the end. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Miri.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We are so excited to have you join us. So we know that there has been a lot of discussion across the industry around security, business resilience, agent architecture, deployment, and we heard many customers asking how they can balance between security and stability, and how we at SentinelOne, what is our approach to security to provide real-world protection, but still keeping ensuring operational resilience. And that's what we will cover in this webinar. So I'm sure that all of you are aware of the CrowdStrike outage that was last month. It was unfortunate because many customers were hit, but it was an inflection point for us as an industry. And it brought many key lessons to the forefront of all of us. Because as we race towards innovation and bring the best security and stay ahead of the attackers, we always need to remind ourselves what is the importance of quality of testing, gradual rollouts, and methodological approach in delivering secure software. At the same time, we also need to make sure that we have a clear and transparent communication with our customers, and also that we have mitigation in place in case an incident happen. But not only for us as security vendors, but also there is a constant challenge for every security leader, because to their organization, they need to balance between having a robust security on one hand, but also how do they keep their operational stability? Because if you have in an organization like an overly strict security, then it can impact your business agility. However, if you have insufficient security, it exposes you to a significant risk. So this balance is crucial for safeguarding your data, maintaining your customer trust, and achieving your long-term goals. And as cyber threats grow more sophisticated, finding this balance is more critical than ever. And the question that you need to ask yourself is like, how do I keep myself with the latest update, but to defend against attack, but still keeping my organization stability, my business continuity? And this is a balance act that organization need to do like on a daily basis. So I would like now to touch and see and show what is SentinelOne approach and how do we address the challenge of balancing security and stability. And we provide the world's most advanced cybersecurity platform that is fast, it's reliable, it's built for today's dynamic threat landscape, but still we don't want to sacrifice any operational stability. And it starts from the design of our architecture, from the design of our agent, which Mark will cover in the next few slides. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about our Singularity platform. So there's three main pillars. The first one is the unified platform. We have one console, one agent. We have one agent that covers both aspects of endpoint protection and also identity protection. And the fact that everything is bundled in one agent provides you more operational efficiency and also reduce the risk of disruption. The second thing is the AI-driven speed and efficiency. We invest a lot in AI. We already have a lot of detection based on AI. And beyond what we provide today about static and behavioral AI, we're also looking through anomaly detection and UEBA. But not only the detection, but also the ability to mitigate fast, to respond fast. So we want to ensure that your operation would not be in any way disrupted by any malware activity. And we also always want to have you to have like the most updates, the recent update, to make sure that we provide you with the best security control. That's why we provide you with updates, automatic updates, but we put a lot of emphasis about the gradual rollout and testing it, so we will not put any risk and stability on your organization. And the last but not least is the autonomous SOC security operation. We want to empower your teams. We want to make your operation the most efficient. We want the SecOps to be able to focus on what's most important. And that's why we provide prioritized alert. We try to minimize the false positive as much as possible, so your team will be able to focus on what's most important. So this targeted approach helps to maintain operational stability while addressing security threats effectively. In the next section, Mark will cover our architecture, our testing methodologies, to show how we have always stability in mind.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So I think it's, to transition into some details on the architecture, how do we do this? I really do think it's important to talk about, what are our first principles with the design of our agents? And Mary touched on this a little bit, and I'll emphasize it again now. It's our first job in protecting our customers really is the principle of do no harm. The recent outage certainly put into focus what can go wrong. I mean, providing endpoint security software and keeping you safe from threats have a big responsibility to not violate that first principle and cause operational harm to your business due to malfunctions, errors, problems with the software that we're delivering to you. So that truly is our first principle, do no harm. So, how do we do that? What are some of our design principles? I've laid out here. I'm going to go through each of these in depth, but first piece is, what's in user mode, what's in kernel space. This has been a topic that some of you have maybe thought about for a long time. Others might be, who've been looking at some of the follow-on discussion from the recent outage. There's been more discussion recently about, hey, what should be running in the kernel? What should be running in user mode in a security tool? Does my security tool need to have access to kernel mode? Why does my security tool? I'll get into that in a minute, but we stick very, very carefully to Microsoft best practice. There are things we have to do in the kernel. I'll describe them in a minute, but we really want to limit what we're doing there to only what is appropriate to run in the kernel. Everything else we pull into what's called a user space on the system, where sure, there can be bugs in user space, but typically, crashes and so forth will have dramatically less impact than blue screening a box and taking down all of your systems. So what we have in user mode versus kernel mode. On Windows. We're actually just on Mac and Linux, we're completely out of the kernel. We're operating entirely in user mode space and using APIs and capabilities provided by those operators. Live security updates. This is the SentinelOne terminology for an update that we deliver. We install these for new detections. We install these to deal with false positives and other issues sometimes. The key component for this is we always test these extensively. Period. They're all tested. We treat them very carefully, and we never, ever update a kernel mode component in our software. We keep the install and release process for that totally separate. We're only updating user mode detection components. We release our live security updates in a phased fashion. This means we start with a very small population. We actually start internally. We then roll out to a small subset of customers. We roll it out farther. We walk very closely. Yeah, and sorry, I just turned off my camera. I hope the audio is coming through okay, folks. If it's not, please let us know and we'll pivot. We phase our releases. That it's a core concept that we release. We look for performance. We look for issues. We look for crashes. We do this multiple times before we roll out something to our entire fleet. all with the idea in mind that, yes, it is entirely possible there will be a problem somewhere, someday with one of our live updates. We will find it quickly, probably on our own internal systems, if at all, and keep it from becoming like a global issue. So we phase those releases. And transparency. We want you to be able to see what we're doing. So I'm going to go into these a little bit more in coming slides. So back to our agent architecture, what do we do here? What does this really mean? So again, on a Windows security software, it is important for us to be operating in the kernel. We have other things operating in the user mode. And most of what we're doing, as you can see here, does operate in user space. Signatures, all of our behavioral AI detections, capabilities that we have to be gathering telemetry data and providing that up to you for later search. All of these things operate in the user space, which is a safer place for them to be. We do have components with a Microsoft signed kernel component. They help us with anti-tampering, visibility, driver blocking, device control, small subset of things. Again, the only content we update is through live security updates, is this user mode type of content. We are not dropping in from the cloud code or different capabilities that modify our kernel mode components and could cause some catastrophic crash if that update doesn't have proper validation or whatever happens there. So a very important separation. Why do we need the kernel for endpoint security? There are some really valid reasons to do this. One of them is visibility into security-related events. The kernel driver does give us a really nice ability to look very deeply into what's happening in the system. Certain things like process events, certain things like file creation events. There are capabilities we can do by getting callbacks and then processing that data in real time in the kernel that we can't get from user space through available APIs and so forth. The other advantage of doing that in the kernel is that we can do things in a synchronous mode. We can block on process creation and do some very quick analysis in order to detect whether something's malware. You can't do that from user space at all. So to get this sort of inline component, you got to be blocking, got to be in the kernel. So we do have a piece there to be getting this visibility, blocking, and enabling some prevention. There are some performance areas where you can get better performance, things that are really high throughput, like network activities and so forth. There's an advantage for us to be looking at large volumes of some data without it impacting performance. So we pick a couple of use cases and may do some of that work in the kernel for performance reasons. Another huge reason is tamper resistance. So we found a growing trend recently with SentinelOne where we see attackers, doing things that the level of protection provided just by detections, an adversary running a tool, running a piece of malware, trying to get around an EDR product such as ours. The bar can be set very high. My entire job is to raise that bar higher every day. Some attackers have come to the conclusion that, well, it's actually easier in some cases for us just to try to impair this EDR tool, uninstall this EDR tool, blind the EDR tool, stop the service from running, actually take that approach to trying to get their ransomware to run or whatever it is that they're doing. If we're not operating in the kernel, in loading very early, we can't provide proper protection against tamper resistance. So we do operate in the kernel and have various anti-tamper mechanisms in place running as an early load anti-malware driver. So we're loaded up early in that boot process and can prevent sophisticated attackers from disabling SentinelOne, prior to us being in a position where we can protect the system. So we've put a lot of investment into this area in the last couple of years. Very difficult to tamper with our product and evade our products in this fashion, but we can't do it without being in the kernel. So again, the kernel, maybe to wrap that up here, just to say the kernel, the kernel is this part of the operating system. We have to be there for endpoint security. It's the part of the OS that's interacting at the lowest possible level with devices, with memory, with the CPU. It's sort of like the controlled inner sanctum. And when you cause a problem there, you can cause catastrophic cascading outages, blue screens of death, things like that. So again, our security software has to be there for the reasons I just put on this slide in Windows. It's really a requirement, but we treat that responsibility we have by operating there with just extreme caution. We minimize our presence there. Anything we're doing there I'll get into this in a minute, goes through an incredibly intense testing process to ensure that, again, we don't violate that first principle of not doing any harm on the system. Going to pivot a little bit to dig in more to live security updates. So again, live security updates is our centralized system at SentinelOne for distributing protection updates to SentinelOne agents in order to rapidly address threats and interoperability issues. Think of these, a simple way, this is something we can do, is like a malware signature that we release. So we can do that, and we can also release new capabilities to our behavioral AI engines running in the endpoint, our machine learning backed malware models, lots of different capabilities. Live security updates is a way we update them. We deliver safe content, only user mode components that we're touching. So we're not taking a piece of code and throwing it into a kernel mode component of our system. So how do we test and deploy these things? And this really applies, again, to our kernel mode components as we're doing agent updates, where you update those pieces, but also these user mode components. So what's the development and deployment process look like for these things? We have a proper software development lifecycle for any of these updates. We treat them like software, which it is. You might take a very naive look at some of these things, like a signature, or just a definition of any kind. You look at it and say, well, this doesn't look like software. It's just a rule. What could possibly go wrong? Recent events have told us that a lot can go wrong if you have malformed updates of this fashion. You can see catastrophic outages and effects that we just can't, we and our users can't afford. So we treat these things like software. We have code review processes in place, which means we're doing the authoring of any update in a coding repository. We use GitHub, like it's software. We have other people reviewing any change. We need two thumbs up on a change. We merge it in like any other piece of software. We have multiple people looking at any change. We have what we call unit testing, where we say, hey, is this schema proper? Does it have the right fields that we expect? Does it have all these things? Is it formatted correctly? Does it have any unexpected inputs? You can do lots of things with unit testing. And then we take these sets of rules and other capabilities, and we build a little version bundle that we call an artifact, and say, okay, now this thing might be ready for release. So again, treat it like code. We generate an artifact. It's a release candidate. We do testing. You have to install things like this on real endpoints and test that they actually load properly on an endpoint, test that alerts fire as you expect, test that false positives don't crop up. We test all these things to make sure that performance problems don't take place. We look at the level of percentage point increases of CPU utilization for different engines as we do updates. We take a very close look at many aspects of these things on real system before they get to a point where we're even releasing it internally to our own user systems, let alone touching a customer. So proper software development processes, code review, unit testing, versioned artifacts, real testing on real endpoints, which is a thing that unfortunately was a major contributor to the outage last month. That testing just didn't happen, which is a real shame. Needs to happen. We've been doing it since we started this project. It's sort of a baseline thing, a responsible act that we think is important in our release process. Always has been, always will be, that we're testing this stuff. And then the last piece is phased rollout. So I will not claim that I will never have a bug in one of these artifacts. It's like I said, it's software. Software has bugs. The point here is that we want to find a bug early, and we want to find it on minimize the blast radius, so to speak, if there's ever a problem. So we talk about phased rollout. This means we release it internally first. We look for problems. We measure performance. We look for crashes. If it passes all of our checks, we go to the next phase, then the next phase, then the next phase, then the next phase. That might sound slow. It actually is by design a little bit slow. We have to strike a balance between speed of getting these updates out and care taken to make sure that every one of these things is performant, does what it's supposed to be doing, doesn't cause problems. So we struck a balance where we are doing these deployment rings with continuous monitoring, going slow. And those of you who were tuned into the issue last month are probably aware that it went out very broadly, very fast, all at the same time. So instead of this issue being contained in an isolated region, it caused some global effects, which again was quite unfortunate. So these are all things that we've had baked into our process, since day one, and these things will continue to be in place, and we'll continue constantly finding ways to improve them to make it an even more solid process. So I'm going to move on to control. We think control of these updates is critical. You need to have control over what updates are coming into your systems. This goes with agent deployment control. This goes with maintenance windows on our console side. And this goes with live security updates, which I was just talking about. We have a little screenshot here where you have a toggle. Do I want these live security updates or not? And it's up to you. So you can control this at your scope level, your site level, across the board. You can pop this in here. And it's up to you whether you get these things. In contrast with previous, the recent incidents, you didn't have a choice. The update was it went everywhere, no matter what you did. There wasn't this option. So again, you were getting updates. That update was affecting the kernel. That update wasn't tested properly, and you didn't have a choice whether you got it or not. Not a good situation for users. You got this control. You had this little toggle before, and you'll always have it. And another key point here gets into visibility. So you should know what is happening, on your endpoints. You should know what updates you're getting. This goes, of course, at a high level, you're going to want to know what agent version you're running and see release notes for that. You, of course, get that. But since the beginning, we've been publishing release notes for each release. You see version, you see update history. It's filterable per agent. And when these policy changes and activities are happening on your different, where are these things? You can know that as well. So again, we want to make sure we're transparent and visible. We want to give you insight into what these updates are. And you can see a couple of screenshots of what this looks like here. So just kind of to wrap up these items one more time, this secure by design approach, we minimize the presence in the kernel, in that core of the operating system, where as you do things, and again, there's reasons to do them, you risk destabilizing the system if you're there. We've got to minimize presence there according to best practices. It's going to stay that way. We have a rigorous and responsible deployment and development process for live security updates. We treat them as software. They are software. We test them end to end. We deploy them slowly and carefully. Balancing speed, but accepting a little slowness in order to make sure that this thing is functional and not going to violate that first principle of doing no harm. So we've got that rigorous and responsible deployment process in place. We don't push kernel components as part of live security updates, just user mode components, controllable via a toggle, and we've got release notes. You've got transparency. You know what's going on. Yeah, so I think that's the end of this section. I think, Miri, this is a spot where I think you can jump back in.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So I would like now to introduce you a few upcoming features on our roadmap that will provide you more visibility and control. The first one is we call Health Center. So we understand that our customers, they want to have good visibility across the fleet about the agent health status. So we are collecting various metrics from our different agents, and we show them to you customers. So you can basically look at the screenshot here, and you're able to see the status of the machine, whether it's online or offline, whether it has over CPU utilization, or any things that might not function or might not indicate that the machine is risky, is in a risk mode. We will also provide you with metrics and dashboards, so you can always monitor and be on top to make sure that all the machines all are covered, everything is good. You have full visibility to make sure that you have protection in place and all the endpoints are working as they should. So this is a good feature that will come soon. The next feature that I want to introduce you is how can we provide you with more control. right? As we discussed before, we understand that customer wants to have control on the updates. So specifically for live security updates, as mentioned before, today you are able to enable it on the scope and in the global, but we want to also allow you to enable it on the group level. So on the smallest unit, you will be able to basically enable it. And that comes with the next feature is that we would like to have you the capability to kind of define a testing route. So let's say that you want to control that every time that there is a new live security updates, you will enable it on testing several groups that they will be your testing ground. You will test it, you will see that everything is okay, and then basically you will approve and we will continue the gradual rollout across your entire fleet. That will give you a lot of power in your hands to control the rollout, to build the confidence that you need, and to mitigate any risks if there are. More than that, today we already publish content through live security updates, for our behavioral models, for YAR rules. Now we will also start to ship new models for our static AI. And last but not least is about the policy. So today we have a policy page and we allow you basically to disable, enable, but we understand that the granularity is not enough and you want more control. So you can define in which environment, even in the level of the sub-engine, you will be able to define what's enabled, what's disabled, whether it's on prevent or detect. We want you to provide you with this full control in your environment. So if there is like production environment and you feel more safe that you would not have prevention controls, for example, on some of our sub-engine that you might find more risky, then you will be able basically to opt out of them. We want to have you full control and full visibility on your configurations. So these all features are in our roadmap. And with that, I would like kind of summarize. So we talked a lot about the stability and our architecture and how we test and how we communicate. I want to spend a few minutes just to talk and to summarize about our platform. So to summarize, you can see here, we have unified AI-driven platform, which consolidates security across endpoints, identity, cloud, exposure management, everything in one place, in one console. And this simplifies your security management and enhance your ability to mitigate threats, see cross correlations between different components in your organization, because you have full visibility between endpoints and servers in the cloud or on-prem. You have we have what we call the Singularity Data Lake, right? It's one place where we ingest all the data. It's normalized into one open cybersecurity schema framework for seamless integration, not only from input from our engines, but also you can connect it to other solution and everything will be digested in one place and you will be able to monitor and have visibility into one place. Our key component includes the endpoint security, which provide contextual detection for various sources and enables you quick decision-making and response. You have the identity security, which protect against identity attack with real-time deception capabilities. You have the cloud security, which offers comprehensive protection against threats, misconfiguration, and exposed secrets. And also we have the exposure management, which continuously evaluates your assets against vulnerabilities and provide a proactive risk mitigation. So this integrated approach, everything in one place, in one management system, reduce your total cost of ownership, streamlines your workflows, and will leverage AI to accelerate your threat response and bring you the best protection that we can, and still keeping your control on the system, visibility, and resilience. So Rachel, I will hand over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, both Miri and Mark. There are quite a few questions that have come in, and I would like to just ask some of them now live. If you do have questions, please continue submitting them. We have a little bit of time left. Now, the first question I think we actually did cover, but I wanted to emphasize it. Can customers control the live security updates that are pushed out by SentinelOne? Mark, would you like to re-clarify that point, please?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there is customer control. An update is not required. And in fact, I'll make one other point that we designed this thing to not require updates like a couple times a day, a couple times an hour. We're not constantly flooding you with updates because another core principle is to have a endpoint security product and a security platform in general that's effective without needing updates. So if you're in a situation where you don't want to be pushing out updates regularly, if you're in a disconnected environment that you can't get updates, there's lots of reasons why updates might not be right for you. You don't have to have them. Like, we will never force them upon you, and you'll actually continue to get good protection without that because we're using AI and machine learning to find generic behaviors and generic malware. On top of that, we layer in some of these capabilities we can deliver through a live security update. And you don't have to take those. You have this toggle whether you want to accept those types of updates or not.
Perfect.
I also want to mention that every agent comes up with all the previous updates that came through live security updates. So you can always catch up with the new agent release.
Yep. Great point. Thanks, Mary. That's absolutely true. They get rolled into the next update. So the next agent picks up some of the latest and greatest things that were previously released to users with those live security updates. They'll be out there soon for those of you who are just updating the core agent.
Perfect. Another question. Are your live security updates pre-tested before being released to customers?
Yeah, I can take that one too. And absolutely. I will never send you an update without testing it. It's software. It can affect the behavior of your system. Testing, you do it for reasons to include, does it load properly when it gets there? Is it detecting the things I expect it to detect? Is it creating some new set of false positives? Is there a regression, which means, hey, I'm supposed to be detecting these 5,000 things already. I intend to detect this 5,001st things. I better make sure I don't lose any of those old detections. So we detect all of that, or all of those things in our testing. Any problems with that, they crop up. And then also it's that performance testing. I know how important that is to some of you, to maintaining the right level of CPU and memory utilization. And of course, crashes of applications and blue screens of boxes, God forbid, effects like that. We find all of those sorts of things in testing as well. So absolutely, this stuff is software. It affects your systems. We test it very rigorously before we would ever release it to a customer.
Perfect. The next question, what percentage of testing is using AI versus human testing?
Yeah, good question. I think I can jump in on that too. I'll maybe expand the idea of AI with that question. So into automation. There's various types of automation we use in this process to scale. To scale it up, we of course have to. We don't want people hitting buttons on a keyboard every time, and we also want to automate things to have consistency and make sure we're covering all the right cases. So we have a partially automated approach. We do write automated tests for everything we do, and they run. That's how we get great things like regression testing becoming possible. We have people in the loop, though, looking at some of the results, things like performance test output. We have, of course, automation to generate that data. We have a human being look at it and decide on okay, is this thing right? Did it pass the test? Is it ready to go? Go. I think that's one of those pieces in the process that is important, keeping a human in the loop. And so that's how we do things now. We treat it as a combination. There's always people looking at the results. I don't have a percentage about what's what, but some of the tests are human driven. Most of them are automated, but there's people in the loop before something goes. It's a test wouldn't go haywire and just decide to shove something out the door because the whole thing's automated. There's people in the loop.
Perfect. The next question, I believe you offer multiple products. I'm using Control for my clients. Are the features you've discussed all in the control version? Miri, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, so live security updates is of course supported for all SKUs, and also the health center and the other feature, the granular policy, all of them supported in the control SKU as well.
Perfect. There is a question about, are we able to run our own vulnerability scans? Mark, do you want to take this one, or Braden?
Yeah, Braden, you've been quiet. Braden, why don't you jump in and answer that?
Yeah, sure. I can take the question. Hopefully everybody can hear me. So we do offer a risk and vulnerability management solution. It's something that our Singularity platform offers. We call it under here exposure management on the slide that you're viewing. Our website has a ton of detail on the offerings, including data sheets, et cetera. If you're something that you are interested in learning more about, please reach out to us, and we're happy to set a dedicated session with you and your teams on what we do for exposure management, including identification of vulnerabilities and remediation of those vulnerabilities.
Perfect. There's a question on, does SentinelOne provide a managed SOC, not just an autonomous SOC? And yes, absolutely. We have a very robust managed services portfolio. We recently just announced our Singularity MDR services to provide coverage across all of your alerts across your environment. We also have our Vigilance MDR services. If you have questions, please reach out to your account manager. Also, information is available online, and we can send some follow-ups as well if you'd like to highlight. Okay, another question. Would updates be tested in specific client environments to see how it would hold up in their actual environment? Mark, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, Braden. Actually, I'm going to throw that one to Braden too.
Okay.
Sorry, Rachel, just repeat that.
Would updates be tested in specific client environments to see how it hold up in their actual environment? Yeah,
sure. So there's a couple different ways that we do our testing. Mark covered this pretty extensively in the overview in the slide presentation, but we do all of our manual and automated testing internally, of course. We also deploy in a real environment, in SentinelOne's real environment. So all of our employees get these updates before any of our customers. So those are how it holds up in our environment. Now, perfectly recognize it's not maybe how it will hold up in your environment. So with these live security updates, you have the ability to not only turn them on and off, but to set up what we refer to as sites or scopes, where you can set up a specific environment that looks just like yours and just have the live updates enabled for that environment, and then choose when you want to enable it for the rest of the environment. So you have the ability to control at that level for your own environments as well. So the short answer, I guess, is yes. You have the ability to test them in your specific environments. We also test representative environments that we know the majority of our customers have, so that even before you have that ability, customers that look like you, we've likely have had a representative sample who have done those in early adoption testing as well.
Perfect. I think those are all of the questions. Thank you so much for joining us. If you haven't seen, there is a blog that's posted that has all the core components of what we covered today in the blog. We will be sending out and publishing future blogs that will dive deeper into this. But again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your account manager or please reach out for a demo. We're happy to have more in-depth one-on-one conversations. But thank you so much, everyone. We are so grateful for you spending your time with us. We hope you have a great rest of your day.